Hi, my name is Jake Mathews, and this is the effect of peer pressure on confidence and selective perception. So, first of all, I want you guys to ask yourself, have you ever been in a situation where the teacher posed a question and your hand shot up because you had an opinion? She calls on someone else, and that person who answers has a completely different opinion than what you were going to say or whatnot, and you kind of just put your hand down or lose your thought because that person's thought was so different and you don't want to state something that could be wrong or different. Well, first of all, you're not alone if you have thought this. I've seen it firsthand and I've been in this position myself many times. And this is kind of what made me want to pose the question, does this deal with peer pressure? Um, so background info from the research study that I researched, it measured academic achievement in relationship with their peers' academic achievement. It also measured individuals' values in terms of do they care more about their peers' influence or their parents' influence, and it measured that on an academic level. Um, so here we see social influence occurring at three different levels for individuals. He or she can go with the flow of their peers, but feel differently inside and not really show it. Um, and next, they can have no personal intention and only act according to their peers, which is basically their actions and beliefs, or their beliefs, I should say, are only what their peers think, and they don't have any thoughts for themselves. They can't really make up their mind on too much. And the last one occurs when the individual has truly influenced their peers or themselves, and this is kind of what we call the make it or break it stage because this is an attribute we see kids take with them through life, and this is definitely the important one here. Um, so yeah, what findings did we find from this research survey? Well, first of all, we found out that peer pressure showed a negative relationship with academic achievement of students, and it definitely had a more negative influence on female students as opposed to male students, which actually really surprised me, and we'll see that further in my research experiment or my proposed research experiment. And every department tested in this research survey, economics, computer science, business administration, showed a negative effect resulting from from their peers' influence. And yeah, as could be probably predicted, lastly, kids who value their parents' influence more than their peers carry more academic potential in life because they're definitely just more individual-minded people, and they don't need people to make up their minds for them, and they definitely don't rely on it. So my own research experiment, what would I do is posted here on the left, and what are we looking for is on the right. And here we've got a little guinea pig imaged below because I'm only testing one person. I have 20 students in a room theoretically, and I would control 19 of them, meaning 19 of them are my independent variables. And those independent variables will be wearing mostly blue and orange. Um, and for that one student that's being tested but doesn't know he or she is being tested, they will be asked a question about their favorite colors, about listing their favorite colors in order, 1 through 6, before they enter this room with the 19 other students and have to answer 15 questions about shapes. So basically, after they answer these questions about colors, a projector is to portray two shapes at a time, one larger than the other, and one by one, each student will say which one's larger. Well, theoretically, I would have my student in the 12th to 18th position so that they have opportunity to see the majority of the students before them answer, and that hopefully or possibly, depending on how self-confident the student is theoretically, they will go with those students' influence or answers as opposed to what they actually think. So, yeah, the layout of this would be basically the first 5 questions will be I will have my controlled variables answer with the correct answer. Maybe one or two of them says the wrong answer. And then the next 5 questions, about 50% will say the correct answer, and another 50% will say the wrong answer. And with the last 5 questions, about 90% will say the wrong answer. And after these questions are asked, the question which color is more attractive, and this will be in terms of blue versus green and orange versus red. And this kind of dives back to our original question about the dependent variable listing their favorite colors. And so, following these questions about which color is more attractive, we will record the observations and, yeah, we'll see what the results would say theoretically, right? And so, what are we looking for at this in this proposed experiment? We'll be observing the dependent variable's answers, and it'll tell us whether or not he or she's susceptible to selective perception. Um, their confidence will be determined by how sure of themselves they are, so whether their answers match with what's actually true and whether or not their answers match with what they stated before about favorite colors and whatnot. Um, and so my hypothesis is going to be that more confident students will tend to stick with their answers, and yeah, and not be victim to selective perception and choosing that the facts that my peers are saying is actually what's right as opposed to what my eyes tell me is fact. Um, that'll definitely be the biggest thing. And the research question that I definitely wanted to ask is, will there be a difference between girls and boys? Because the survey that I researched previous to this definitely had a different outcome than what I would have expected. But maybe that's just because I grew up as a boy and, that could be a little self-bias there. So, relation to our course, how does this relate to what we've been studying over the last couple of weeks? Um, Definitely nonverbal communications in terms of appearance, because if my controlled variables are wearing orange and blue and whatnot and colors uh, that a high self monitor might be aware of because they're a high self monitor, that will definitely influence their answers about which color is more attractive, and we'll see whether or not this falls in line with their previous answers about their favorite colors and listing them before the 15 questions about shapes. So this is also a big part of the experiment here. Another thing would be selection bias. In specific selective perception, because like I said before, is our one dependent variable who we're testing on, is he or she gonna take into account, okay, what does my eyes tell me, what is actually in front of me and what is true, or what are the people around me saying? It doesn't really matter, I'll probably just go with them because they're saying this stuff and they're in the same experiment as me, when in reality those are my 19 independent variables and I'm controlling them. So this will be a big part of the testing theory as well. So in conclusion, I think peer pressure and selective perception will definitely influence those with a lower self-confidence to fold their views and accept their peers' influence. And yeah, I just think it'll be definitely very interesting to see the results of this theoretical experiment if it were to take place. And I'm definitely confident that my hypothesis would hold up. Yeah, thank you for listening.